Welcome to episode 55 of Meet the GIMP. My name is Rolf Steinort and I'm recording this in Bremen, northern Germany. Today's show needs a disclaimer. Most of this show will cover the LAB color space, what's so good about it and why we have it not in GIMP. I really don't know much about this. I have tinkered a bit with it now and found out that it has great potential, that we need it, and if we get it with GIMP, then we'll have to learn about it. So this is really no advice how to work with the LAB color space. I don't know if I'm talking trash here or if this is really the best way to do this. I'll ask Joel about this, but don't take this as advice. It's only a peek into the future, a future that I hope will bring us 16-bit and LAB color spaces and other color spaces somewhere in, well, below show 100 of Meet the GIMP. But before I go into this unknown territory where I have to write Hickson Draconis on every corner of the map, let's pick up a thing from the last show. I had solved a problem how to write with a transparent pen without leaving a gap between this and overwriting another part. That was simple. I just had to select this here, invert the selection with Ctrl-I, and then paint again, sorry, wrong tool, paint again with a different opacity. Worked very good. Then select again everything, invert, and paint further. And then I made a mistake. I just painted, left the mouse up and painted over. And now I had here this area where I had this double stuff, and I found no way around that. But that's easy. I got an email from Daniel and he just said me, click here on sample merged and then just click on the stuff you have just doubly painted. And so with sample merged on a white background, you have to have a layer below that that is white or has a uniform color. With that, with sample merged, you are selecting the stuff you see and not the stuff that is on that layer. And so I can just erase the stuff here. Sorry, wrong opacity and wrong tool. And just paint over it. Perfect, isn't it? And now, let's go into this unknown space. So let's explore color spaces. This here is the RGB color space. It's the thing we use in GIMP for setting the colors. You have three values, red, green and blue, and for building a space you just put them up in the coordinates here, like here, starting with 0 or S for Schwarz for black. This is, by the way, from Wikipedia, the English Wikipedia, but some German has made this illustration here. So we start at black, and then we can add either green, red or blue. And you see here, if we only add blue, we end here in this corner of the cube, and this is blue. And there are other corners here. You see this one here, shown here. This is the look inside into the cube. You see the back sides of the cube, and here you see the front, top, front and right side of the cube. You see here this corner is white, this cyan, this magenta and this yellow. The term color space comes from this mathematical representation of colors in 3 axes, and these 3 axes build up a space. And inside of this cube here are all the colors you can use. For example, here, if we go 200 steps into the green, 200 from 255, you see this is 8-bit, exactly what we use in GIMP. And then you go 130 into direction blue, and then 80 up the red alley. Then you end here with this color that I have no real name for. So this is the color space we use in working with GIMP. There are other color spaces, a lot of them, but I think for working with photographies only one is relevant. And no, that's wrong. 2 others are relevant. The one that is mostly relevant for printing is, as I said here, cyan, yellow, magenta and black, or key. And I have covered that a bit. Also missing in GIMP with real support. And the other one is the LAB color space. Alone from these banners here on top of the page in Wikipedia, you see it must be quite complicated. So let's have a look. The LAB's color space that you see mentioned in magazines or books, like in the great book I'm reading just now, Welcome to Oz by Vincent Versace. When I'm finished with that book, I'll give you a short introduction here. If these authors mention LAB color space, they usually mean the CIE 1976 L*A*B* color space, which coordinates are, and so I haven't bothered to really understand this. But now let's look here at this image of the color space. You've just seen that the RGB color spaces and the CYMK color space is made from the technical constraints of the media which with we work. The camera records in red, green and blue, and the printer prints in these CYMK colors, the monitor displays in RGB, and everybody with a little bit different values for the colors, and therefore we need color management, which I have to tackle sometime. But the LAB color space is different. The authors of this color space have tried to make a color space that doesn't fit the technique. Say that okay, the tech guys can find a way to display these colors. They looked for a way that our brain can process easily. They found a way to build a color space out of 3 axes, which is way more intuitive for us. While reading the book, and I had read something before about LAB, I never have really thought, oh, it can't be that good. But now I've tried it, and it is really that good. And I'll show you how good it is now. But let's have a look first at this color space. We have 3 axes. One is L, that is the lightness. How much light is in an image. Lightness goes from 0 to, or 0 like and black, to white. And there are 2 other dimensions, A and B. You see them here. This is these are three cross sections of the color cube. I haven't found such a nice image as for the RGB here. This is looked from top on the color cube and just cut on half height at L50. And you see here, this isn't really a cube. The coordinates are here, and only this here is, this tooltip showing up is nasty. Only this here is displayed. The reason is the LAB color space is much larger than the stuff we can work with. It's even you all know that you can't photograph every scene that you can see with your eyes. Otherwise we wouldn't need to talk about HDR, DRI and such stuff. The camera hasn't the range like our eyes. But the LAB color space is even larger than the stuff we can see. So this cube isn't filled. It isn't really filled. There's a lot of well, empty space in it. This is a cross section 1/4 below the top. You see the space is smaller and the colors are lighter. We are going more to lightness 100%. We have here lightness 75. Oh well, lightness is divided into percent. If we would go further to the top, on the top layer we would find one single spot in the middle where, sorry about this tooltip, we would find one single spot in the middle where the color is simply white. If we go down to the lowest quarter, a cross section 1/4 above the ground, we see darker colors, a smaller space, and if we go even further down we end in one single point, black. But now let's look how this color space is organized. I just pull the GIMP color selection dialog into the image here. You see here this circle, and if you look into this image here, you'll see that the colors here in the middle at 0, we find here something bluish, and on the opposite side, in the 0 and the B axis, we find yellowish stuff. Here is the axis. And now let's look here. We have blue here and yellow there. On the other axis we have here greenish stuff and here reddish stuff, also on the opposite sides of the color circle. So these A and B values balance red and green against blue and yellow, and between them they build this whole space. This is a perceptual space, a space that fits our brain and not the technique. If you need add the conversion formulas between LAB and RGB, you see a lot of Greek. I won't go into that. But a lot of Greek usually means losses, and that makes LAB in GIMP more or less useless. Oh, by the way, that Wikipedia fits into this browser window inside of my recording window is courtesy to Opera and courtesy to a tip by Jim. He showed me that in Opera you have an option here in View, Fit to Width, where you can just set the width of your website you want to display. It sometimes gets funny result, but I like this. Thanks, Jim. I'll show you the limits of working with LAB in GIMP with this image here. It's an image of Rosie, a little rat, not so little, you see here. Rosie is still growing and these rats are getting really big. Rosie is living in Africa and she is trained as a mine seeker. She has a very good nose and will sniff out TNT traces coming up from mines hidden in the ground. You can see further details in the blog at meetthegimp.org, and there is also a button where you can adopt your own rat. It's worth it. This is a good method to rapidly clean areas from these damned landmines and to make them habitable again. So let's take Rosie's image and put her into the components of L, A, and B. I go to colors and decompose, and I decompose into LAB mode. I decompose to layers, and now I have the image here. Let me put this a bit over to here. I have 3 layers. This here is the L layer with the lightness information. And this here is the A layer, and this the B layer. Both are more or less gray. The one thing that pops out here is this, and now let's look what's in the original image. Green leaves. So this layer here must be the one with the green information, green-red gradient. And, well, it is the A layer. And I wanted to show you this because now I just recompose this image here. I go to colors, components. No, not recomposing, then I would get my other image back. I say compose to LAB. I have in the L layer, yes, it's right, L, A, and B, and I say okay, let's do that. And here is my image. Nothing different. But now I take this image here, my composed image, and just pull it on top of my original image. This here is, I rename this to recomposed. And now I set the layer mode to divide. Normally, if you divide a pixel value through itself, it should be 1, white. And let's look. So this image should have been white, but it isn't. Everything you see here non-white are rounding errors due to 8-bit conversions. We only have 255 steps or 256 steps in each direction in the color space, and that's not enough. And this image here shows all pixels in black that are different from the original. You see, nearly all of the image is affected, and only the stuff that's a bit boring, like the background here with a shoe or so, isn't affected by this manipulation. So LAB mode in GIMP is unusual. But luckily there is CinePaint. Perhaps you remember my talk with Joel Connu from Geneva, and he uses CinePaint a lot, GIMP too, but mostly CinePaint because of its 16-bit support. I don't really know enough about CinePaint to really use it, but I'll show you a bit about what I found out. And let's see that as a promise that GIMP has to keep somewhere down the road. I hope soon. CinePaint is a fork from GIMP, from an old GIMP version. I won't discuss any of the circumstances of this fork. I don't want to be part of that discussion. It's nasty on both sides, and well, I think the truth is somewhere out there, but not very helpful. If you know your way around a bit in GIMP, you feel at home with CinePaint. The differences are not that big. You open images just the same as in GIMP by just pulling them on the toolbox. And here it is, way too big. So let me reduce this in size here. You see here, there's a 16-bit unsigned integer in RGB, and with the L-star RGB ICC profile I don't know nothing about. So I made this image with UF-RAW without fiddling with it. It's straight from the camera with the standard settings. Working in LAB needs a lot of power from the processor, and so to get something interactive here I reduce the image, and that's the same as in GIMP. You go to Image, Scale, and I'll reduce it from 3900 to let's say 600. Pressing the 1 key works the same as in GIMP, I just found out. Here we have the image and a layer and channels dialog, which I'll put to the side a bit. And this looks pretty the same like in GIMP and our toolbox. But here you see from the top down on the LAB color space. You see here are the colors of my image, and if you look on the bar below, it changes the color. You see here on the coordinates something yellowish against something bluish, and something greenish against something reddish. Well, let's don't talk about the names of these colors. And you see here something, well, such a ghost. I can move this around here. This ghosty figure is the colors that are possible in the RGB color space. This is the image before converting to LAB. The colors inside this volume here are possible to be made by the camera and UF-RAW. Everything outside is impossible, and most of it surely impossible to be seen by us. I like this image very much, and I'm sure I will be using it again for analyzing images. I looked long for a way to convert this into LAB color space. I found that I had to install a color profile for that, LAB color profile. You'll find a link to the page where these color profiles are found in the blog. You find the color profiles in Image, and here Convert using ICC profile. I say it again, this is no how-to. This is just me poking a bit into a software I don't really know and playing with stuff that I hope will be available in GIMP really soon, let's say next year this time. So I select here the profile, and you see here a list of profiles that's available, and here are two LAB profiles. I found no difference between them. So let's click here, and I'll leave this the same. Just click on it, and you see nothing has changed except for here LAB. When I now go here to the channels, I see a L channel, an A channel, and a B channel. For correcting the colors in this image, I can use in Cinepaint now the Curves tool. Let's look for it. I think it's Image, Colors, and then Curves. Okay, here it is. And you see here the Curves tool looks basically the same as in GIMP, only in GIMP the histogram is here. But you see here on top I have the channel L selected now. And if I just pull this up and this down, the S-curve, you see the same effect as in GIMP with the value. Let's reset this. There are two others, A and B. And I can tweak these here, let's just pull this down a bit. And you see, we get way more bluish green. Let's pull this up. Purplish. And by tweaking these, I can get through a lot of colors, and well, I could do that in RGB too, but these colors here are more well, it feels better. I can't really say this in scientific terms. I haven't used this more than half an hour or so. It definitely is easier to correct a color here, to get a specific effect here, than with the curves in red, green and blue. I think this is a bit in the way I want to go. Let's look at the B channel. We get more blue into the sky, a thing I want to have. And let's look what's happening here. Well, the blue goes out again. It should, because if I just if I just pull these base points the same amount from here to here, the color itself should not be changing, only the saturation should change. But I love the way how I can tweak the colors with this tool. these curves, I just save them. And now I can recall these curves when I process the big image. What's left to be said? We need 16-bit and we need the LAB color space. So please, Sven, just do it!
photocastnetwork.com, your photography resource in the potosphere. photocastnetwork.com